Hello everyone and welcome to the DAIReXNET webinar. My name is Mirey Shaheen. I'm a professor and an extension dairy specialist at the University of Idaho. A couple of announcements before we start. I'd like to encourage everyone to look for us on Facebook and Twitter, as well as consider signing up for our newsletter to get updates on webinars and other education materials. You'll find the links in the video description below. At the end of the presentation, I also encourage you to complete a survey regarding the webinars. Your answers are crucial to improve this program. Our speaker today is Felix Soriano. Felix was born and raised in Argentina. He can relate and communicate very well with Hispanic employees, helping to bridge the communication between workers and managers. Felix has a Bachelor of Animal Science from Universidad Católica Argentina, a master's degree in dairy nutrition from Virginia Tech, and an agricultural labor management certificate from the University of California. Felix worked for a feed company after finishing his master's degree. He then worked as a manager for a feed additive company where he had the opportunity to build his own team, which helped him develop his leadership and supervisory skills. Felix is now sharing his supervisory and feeding management experience with many dairy producers in the United States through his consulting company, APN Consulting. Felix's webinar is titled Defining a Compensation Structure for the Dairy Workforce. Without any further delay, I'd like to invite Felix to start his presentation.
Thanks, Mirel, for the opportunity. This is really an important topic, I believe, that many dairy producers can benefit of. And I really appreciate the opportunity of speaking about compensation, bonuses, and basically salary structures for the dairy companies. I believe it's truly important to discuss these because on my travels around the country visiting dairies and talking to dairy producers, not just here in the US but also around the world, I see still a lot of dairies where there is not a clear and well-defined compensation package for workers, and these can become an issue in many cases. So I truly believe this is a very important topic, first of all, because I think it can be a powerful management tool when it comes to recruiting and retaining really good quality employees. And also because I believe it's sort of the foundation to building a highly committed, productive, and efficient workforce. Many times we talk about motivating employees and the fact that maybe money is not a true motivator for many employees, and usually people have what we call intrinsic motivation, and there's other ways that we can motivate and engage people when it comes to doing a great job at the dairy. But the reality is that we need to start from having a well-defined and attractive compensation package so that then we can build from there and actually start developing that motivation and engagement of the employees of the dairy. The other thing is it certainly reduces headaches due to constant requests for raises for many employees. I've had this experience many times where we meet with the employees and many of them they want to meet and they want to talk about when are they going to get the next raise, and clearly that happens when the farm doesn't have a well-defined compensation package and they are clearly explaining how that works to the employees. The other problem is that on the other hand, some employees are not comfortable talking about money, and in many instances what happens is that we see unhappy employees not focused on their jobs or not completely engaged on what they're doing because maybe they're constantly thinking that they're maybe not well compensated, and that's why they are frustrated. In many instances we see people leaving the farm and then we wonder why they're leaving, And because basically they're not comfortable talking about their compensation, and if we don't have a well-defined compensation package, then many times that's what I see it happens. People leaving the farm because they were not comfortable talking about asking for a raise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sort of going through step by step on how I believe we should define a well compensation program for the dairy. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to define the compensation philosophy. And that compensation philosophy should be in line with company values, mission, a mission statement if we have, and some of the questions that can help the producer or the manager when it comes to defining that compensation philosophy could be, for example, what can I afford to pay, first of all? How competitive I want to be with other dairy farms in the area, how competitive I want to be with the different industries around the area that where I have my dairy. So that is certainly important. Another important question is, should I pay by the hour or should I pay a fixed salary? How should my salaries compare to other dairies or other businesses, like I just said? Will I offer bonus or incentive programs? So if I do, how is my base salary going to be? Understanding that I will also compensate with a bonus or incentive. How much will I spend on benefits? How and when will raises be given? We need to outline those things very well for the employees. How will I communicate my compensation philosophy to the employees? So these are questions that are certainly important and can help the dairy producer or the manager better define that compensation philosophy, and then afterwards start working on the compensation structure. So when it comes to the compensation structure, what I like to see is we can have a direct pay portion of it where we can divide that into the base salary, and that base salary could be hourly pay or salary pay, and then we can have a variable part of that direct pay, and that variable pay could be based on goal bonuses, could be end of the year bonuses, seniority based bonuses, informal bonuses, etc., etc. So these are some of the examples that I'm going to provide throughout this presentation. And the other portion of the compensation structure is the indirect pay. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time discussing these, but I think it's important to mention. So benefits are certainly part of that compensation structure as well. And when we are communicating these compensation structure with employees, we need to make sure that we outline those benefits as well, like, for example, health insurance, housing, paid vacations, etc., etc. And we'll talk briefly about some of those as well. So the first step then would be defining the base salary. And the base salary, something I learned many years ago from Gregory Bilikoff from University of California, was trying to define a base salary and based on pay grades. And what a pay grade is a group of jobs that share the same wage level. And I'll explain a little bit more with an example in a minute what this means. So jobs are allocated in different pay grades depending on their value. So we assess the value of each job in the dairy, and then we incorporate each one of those jobs into a different pay grade. For these, it's very important to have job descriptions and written job descriptions, because if we want to assess the value of each one of those jobs, we need to include what are the qualifications that we are requiring for each one of those jobs in the dairy. What are the responsibilities that they're going to have, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to talk about job descriptions in this webinar, but I think this is a very important topic, and I think in general dairy producers need to do a better job describing those so that we can do a better assessment of each one of those jobs within the dairy. And the other thing is the rate of pay. And the rate of pay represents the lowest and highest pay within each one of those pay grades that we define. So just to give an example, how are we going to assign the jobs to each one of those pay grades, for example? We can have define different, when we are assessing the value of each job within the dairy, we can have a point scoring system, for example, where we evaluate the level of responsibility that each job will have, the level of education, physical requirements, skills, etc., etc. The idea, this is just an example. We can find a lot of other things that we can assess when it comes to evaluating the value or putting a value to each one of those jobs. But this is just an example looking at milkers, feeders, and supervisors, for example. Again, those will be different depending on each employer. Some employers might think that milkers have a more important value within the dairy than maybe other employees. So I'm not going to argue with that. I think every dairy needs to make that assessment. The important thing is to make that exercise and do that assessment, and then based on that, have a better pay structure. Where in this case, for example, we have, according to the job value of each one of those, we define a pay grade. So in this case, for example, we have a pay grade A, pay grade B, C, and D. And as you can see, that each pay grade will have a rate of pay where we have a minimum and a maximum, for example, that a milker, which is within pay grade A, can make. So a milker that doesn't have much experience and just started working for the company might start at the lowest rate of pay for that pay grade A. Now, we might have another milker that has a lot of experience, has several years of experience working with us in that particular dairy, so that employee might be reaching the maximum of that pay grade. And the same thing, we can see a pay grade B, that could be a shift leader, for example. Pay grade C, we could have feeders. I gave one example of one job for each one of those pay grades, but that doesn't mean that we can only have one job in each one. We could have different, for example, pay grade A, we can have milkers, we can have cow pushers, and maybe other type of employees with similar responsibilities or similar value in the job that they play in the dairy. So that's a better way of better defining how we compensate depending on the value of the job, depending on the responsibilities, and how much actually an employee can make within that pay grade. The other thing is we need to define whether we pay hourly or have a fixed salary for employees. And each one has its benefits and disadvantages. In the case of the hourly pay, employees in general feel it's a more fair way of compensating them. That's what I find in many situations in many dairies in the US. This is more commonly, I see it in the northeastern US, maybe in the Midwest as well. Whereas maybe in the Southwest, it's more common to see employees being compensated on a salary base. The hourly base also, people are willing to work more hours in general because they can be better compensated. The problem is that sometimes employees take longer to do chores. They sort of take advantage of the system, and not always, but in some instances they try to stretch their hours. And that's why it's so important to have well-defined job descriptions, well-defined protocols, and establishing how long should it take to do each one of the chores. And making sure that if they're getting compensated by the hour, that they are always actually being productive for the operation, right? It's also important to clearly define expectations for each task so that, again, we try to avoid having people abusing the system when it comes to paying by the hour, or maybe just defining a certain amount of hours a day that we can compensate each employee depending on their responsibilities. On the salary base, it's more common for higher pay grade jobs. For example, a manager or a herdsman. In some instances, they're paid on a salary base. Employees, if we compensate this way, all employees, the challenge sometimes is that they tend to work faster. And that can be good for the operation, but at the same time, sometimes they try to focus just on their responsibilities and do it quick. Maybe not achieve the best performance that we are expecting because they are trying to work fast and get done faster and go home or finish their work. So each one has its challenges, and we need to understand those and better define what is best for the dairy. In respect to the variable pay, and that's I define them as bonus programs or incentives. This is certainly an effective way of compensating people who does an excellent job. So many times I talk to dairy employers or managers, and they tell me that they don't believe in incentive programs. And maybe in many instances I've seen that they've had bad experiences in the past, and there's different reasons why they had bad experiences. One thing that is certainly important to understand is that variable compensation or bonus programs are very effective to excel at what people do at the farm. So the idea is not to compensate people and give people a bonus plan just to do a standard job or an okay job, or just to show up on time to work. But the idea is to define a bonus program so that we can excel at and achieve challenging goals. That's it. That's the whole purpose of the bonus programs, I believe. So it's an excellent opportunity for improving communication and praise as well, because now if we can keep track of goals and expectations, that's going to help us when it comes to performance management and help employees stay focused and motivated on achieving those goals. It's an effective way for setting goals and expectations, and it helps keep people motivated for sure. And in many instances, it can be an effective team builder because if we set up goals and expectations for the team or within the different areas in the dairy, that can certainly help when it comes to team building as well. So within those that variable compensation and bonus programs, there's different types. One could be the merit or goal-based bonus, and these ones certainly help employees stay focused and increase performance. And again, we're trying to achieve excellence. We're trying to achieve expectations and goals that are going to be challenging and certainly that are going to help the company be more productive, more profitable, et cetera, et cetera. It many times helps create a sense of ownership of their job as well, because this is a good way of, or I feel it's a good way to promote that ownership of what they're doing and strive towards a goal that's going to help them stay focused on what they're doing every day. It helps develop better teamwork and team culture, and it can improve labor efficiency and productivity as well. And it all depends on what type of goals and expectations we're defining for them. But certainly that's an area that I spend a lot of time when I work with dairy producers, trying to look for bonuses or trying to look for key performance indicators that are going to help the dairy and that particular area within the dairy to be more efficient and more productive. Also, it should be specific and monitored periodically, and this is certainly important because as a manager or a leader, we want to make sure that we stay consistent and that they're constantly focused on those goals. It should be simple, ideally not more than 3 performance parameters to evaluate within an area. That way we can keep it simple. It's simple for the manager or the leader that's actually keeping track of those numbers and sharing those with the employees. And it should also have a positive impact in profitability, herd health, etc. Something that's going to be, it's going to be related to the performance and profitability of the operation. And employees' work should have a direct impact on those goals for sure. Because if not, it can get frustrating for employees if what they do won't impact or affect those goals that we're setting for them, right? Here are some examples of goal-based bonuses. In this case for milkers, and this is a very simple one where we are just basically evaluating milk quality and defining a bonus program based on that milk quality. Now what's important is to have also conditions, and conditions mean we have a bonus and we are striving towards a goal as a team, for example in the parlor, but at the same time we want to make sure that people stay focused on other areas that are important for the dairy as well. So if we are setting a bonus based on milk quality, we also need to have a condition, in this case, for example, to achieve this bonus, each shift must average at least 150 cows per hour for the week. And this is just an example. So in that case, what we're doing is we're defining a bonus based on milk quality, but understanding that parlor efficiency is also important in order to achieve that bonus. Also, cows must not get mixed up between groups in order to obtain the bonus, so we want people to stay focused while they're doing their work. And so by doing an efficient work, we want to make sure at the same time that they're not mixing up cows, and cows from pen 1 end up showing up in pen 3 or 4. So those are conditions that are going to help the team stay focused on and understanding what the goal is, but at the same time understanding what other areas they need to focus on in order to achieve that goal. This is a little bit of a more complex, even though it's very simple as well. But here we're providing a bonus based on milk quality, but also a bonus based on milk flows, for example, where a portion of that bonus program is paid based on milk quality, somatic cell counts, and another portion is based on the milk flows that we achieve in the 30 to 60 second range when they're milking cows for each. So we can look at each shift where the milk flows are, and we can define goals and expectations for them and compensate them according to that. And obviously why we're looking at these is because these parameters are going to tell us how well they're prepping the cows before attaching those machines or not. So we're trying to compensate those employees or those shifts that are stimulating cows properly and they're getting good quality milk as well. But again, in this particular case, we do also have the condition that we need a minimum of 200 cows an hour in order to achieve the bonus. So we're looking for quality work, we're looking for milk quality, but we're also looking for parlor efficiency. Now, some tips on how to get the most out of a goal-based bonus program. First of all, we can implement a bonus program until performance is at least at standards, and each dairy has to define what the standards mean. But the idea again is to try to achieve excellence and try to constantly achieve goals that are challenging, and that they're going to provide a benefit to the dairy operation as well. The second point is we need to define SMART goals, and I'm not going to talk too much about these, but SMART goals basically are they have to be specific, right? They have to be measurable. They have to be attainable. So they need to be challenging, but at the same time, it needs to be something that we know that they're going to be able to attain. They have to be relevant to the company and to what the common goals for the company are as well. And they have to be time-bound. So we need to achieve those goals at a certain time. So that is certainly important, and again, keeping it simple, using just a few parameters that we're going to be evaluating, like the ones I showed you in these couple of examples, making it simple, keeping track of that performance daily. We have to be consistent. The manager or whoever is in charge of keeping track of those parameters is absolutely critical to be consistent and do it day by day by day, sharing that information with them at least on a weekly basis. But again, I put a lot of emphasis on these because sometimes I do see managers that we start working on these type of performance goals, and maybe after a month they stop keeping track of these things, either because they're busy working in the field, so there's something going on. The key is to be consistent, and we constantly need to provide this information and keep track of it. And if the owner or the manager can't do it that week or that month, somebody else has to be in charge and be responsible for doing that throughout that time that the manager is not going to be able to do it. Also, we need to give people all the tools and support that they need. And this is critical, and this is responsibility of the managers, the leaders, and the producer to make sure that if we are defining these bonus programs, we want to make sure that employees have all the tools, and those tools are working properly, and all the support that they need from us in order to be able to achieve those goals. So the idea is this is a team approach. We are all part of this team, and we all need to be involved in these defining these goals, but also achieving those goals. Another thing is important is the bonus plan should be flexible, which means we need to define the culture and the idea that once we achieve the goals, these are going to evolve. So we're going to continue growing, we're going to continue improving, and that has to be part of the culture if we want people to stay focused and achieving goals constantly. So once we achieve the goals that we set up, now we need to redefine those goals and see where can we improve and get better at. It's also important we have to have conditions to be eligible for the bonus, like I showed you on those examples. Workers must be properly trained, and this is absolutely critical. So if we're going to set up bonus programs and we want people to achieve those goals, we want to make sure that they're properly trained, that they have the skills that they need in order to achieve those goals. We constantly have to communicate and explain the bonus structure. And this is sometimes it's not something that we can do just once. It's a constant refreshing and explaining what those goals mean, why are they important for their job and for the company, and also understand the impact that what they do has in those goals as well. And last but not least, separate incentive pay from irregular pay. And I feel this can help when it comes to differentiate what the base salary means and what the compensation for achieving a great job or doing a great job or achieving those goals and improving performance, how that compensates according to that. So we need to separate those two things, and sometimes it's good to maybe have a separate itemized line on the paycheck where it describes, base salary, and then it describes separately the bonus, or in some cases we can give a separate check. We need to find ways of using these not just for a compensation purpose, but also as a way to praise employees. So if we can separate those two things, then we can use these as a tool to give praise and promote the idea of how important it is to achieve those goals to the dairy operation. Another type of bonus could be seniority-based bonuses. So as I explained before, if we define pay grades, if we have, for example, a milker that has been with us for many years, that milker does a fantastic job. He's very responsible. He does a fantastic job when it comes to milking cows and caring and engaging with the other employees and with the company. But the reality is that that pay grade, there's a maximum that they can make for base salary. So how can we compensate if the company's philosophy is that having long tenure of employees is important, then we need to compensate those accordingly. And having a seniority-based bonus, that can be an effective way of doing that. It's perceived as more fair in some cultures because they feel that because they've been longer with the company, they deserve to be compensated better. But the reality is, in many cases, people are compensated based on performance and based on the type of job that they do. So again, if we compensate for seniority, rather than giving them a higher base salary, one option could be to have the seniority-based bonus. And this is one example of that. Again, this is just an example where we're giving longevity bonuses for employees on the anniversaries of their employment with the company. And for example, after 2 uninterrupted years with the company, they get $250 at the end of the year. And the longer the tenure of that employee, the more money they can make at the end of the year as a bonus because they've stayed longer with the company doing a great job. So this is another way of compensating that can help maintain those pay grades and not vary from those, but at the same time compensating people that have been loyal for the company in a way of providing these end of the year bonuses that they're going to be looking forward to. Other type of bonuses could be end of the year bonus. Some companies will provide a fixed dollar amount for each worker at the end of the year based on the profits that the company made. Others will provide a percentage of the profits of the company to the employees. In other cases, they use more of a variable bonus amount that might be variable depending on the pay grade where that employee is, whether maybe a manager gets a different bonus than a milker or a feeder, and that can vary, and it can be variable as well because depending on the profits that the company had that year. In other cases, there can be informal bonuses, and informal bonuses, a good example of that would be recognizing some of the employees that maybe stayed 2-3 more hours a particular day when it was time to put the plastic on top of the side of the bunker. So we're compensating not just by the extra hours that they worked that day, but we are also giving them a sort of an informal bonus that could be a gift certificate, it could be cash. I mean, there's different styles or different ways of compensating that. But those are more informal bonuses that we can provide when it comes to recognizing someone who goes, the extra mile and, due to either unforeseen problems or due to projects like covering the site. The other portion of the compensation package is indirect pay. And many times I see that dairies don't take the opportunity to communicate these well with employees and what the benefits are working for that particular dairy based on the indirect compensation that they can provide or the benefits. So the first thing is defining what the company can afford in order to define that benefits package that we can provide. But certainly it can help recruit good quality candidates in many cases. That can be something that can attract employees, like for example providing housing. It should match the demographics of the workforce and the needs and wants of the employees, and it can help promote employees' personal and professional growth and well-being as well. If we're providing training and some other examples that I'll provide in just a minute. Okay. So some of the examples when it comes to providing benefits could be health insurance, housing, paid vacations. Some dairies will provide boots and clothing, use of farm trucks, cellular phones, professional personal advancement through trainings, trying to help them develop new skills and learning new tasks and new responsibilities, taking them, whether those are internal trainings that we can provide in the dairy, or sending employees to training programs outside of the dairy as well. Farm produce, meat, etc., that some dairies will offer and provide to the employees. One thing related to the housing, these can be certainly an incentive, or it can be certainly a benefit, as long as the housing conditions are proper. And this is something that, as I believe, employers have to be responsible, making sure that they're providing good comfort and good conditions when it comes to housing, if they're paying for it. Also, in many instances, many employers will pay for electric bill, gas bill, etc., etc. So that can certainly become an important benefit for some employees. So to summarize, the next step, which I believe is very important, is once we define the pay structure and we define the base salary, we define the bonus incentives that we will provide, we define the benefits that we can offer to the employees, it's also very important when it comes to communicating that salary structure to employees. And so we need to document the program in writing, explain it to all employees. In some cases, we might need to meet individually with each employee and explain, or we can do it in groups with every employee to explain the pay structure, explain how we give raises, when do we give those raises. We can explain what the pay grades are and how we structure in general the compensation program, how do we structure the bonuses, how do we structure the benefits. And the other very important thing, I believe, is putting a dollar figure or a cost figure to each benefit that we are offering to the employees, because many times these can be an eye-opener for the employees. So if we are providing attractive benefits, we need to articulate those very well. We need to communicate those very well. So this will be an example of how we could do this by itemizing, and we don't need to do this on every paycheck, but every once in a while, maybe once a quarter, we can certainly sort of itemize pay and benefits. And this is just an example. This is from several years ago. But the idea is to be able to itemize what direct benefits might be, what the base salary is, bonuses, and also the indirect benefits like housing. You know, what is the cost of housing that the employer is covering for the employee? If they're covering electric bill, heat, gas, etc., etc. What is the cost of those things? I believe that we need to do, or in general, dairy producers need to do a better job promoting the idea that it's not just base salary, it's not what they are getting compensated by the hour, which is certainly important. And as employers, we need to do a better job also trying to identify how competitive we want to be, not just between dairies, but also how competitive we want to be as an industry when it comes to salary. But also make sure that the employee understands that next time that they think about moving from one dairy to another, or moving from a dairy to working at another industry, just because they're going to get 50 cents more per hour, for example. Well, let's do an evaluation, a true evaluation of what is the total pay package that they are getting in the dairy. Because many times employees move, or relocate or get new jobs just for a few cents an hour more, but they don't realize all the other benefits that they're getting by working for that particular dairy. So I think this is something that I believe we need to do a better job. We need to do a better job communicating how we're compensating employees, and we need to do a better job communicating those benefits that employees are getting at the dairy. So final thoughts. I believe a well-designed compensation program can be a great start to building a committed, highly productive workforce. There's a lot of things that we can do as managers, owners, employers, when it comes to creating a really engaged and motivated workforce. But we have to start from the foundation that I believe is a well-defined and well-compensated employee. A compensation program must be clearly communicated to all employees to be effective. I think this is absolutely critical. And bonuses and salaries must be paid on time. And this sounds very obvious, but in some instances I've seen frustrated employees not doing what they're supposed to do on a daily basis because sometimes they feel 1 week the employer is behind, they're not getting their paycheck on the day that they're supposed to. So we need to define what is that day that employees get the paycheck and make sure that we're constantly getting paid, that employees getting paid at that same day. And finally, define and communicate when raises are given so that way we try to avoid having employees asking for raises constantly or having employees leaving because they're not comfortable talking about pay and they leave because they feel they're not being compensated accordingly. So with that, I thank you again for the opportunity.
I would like to thank Felix for this excellent presentation, and I would like to remind everyone to please complete the survey. Again, the link for the survey is in the video description below. Thank you, everyone.